A lot has been said about Eddie Van Halen's legacy. I'm hoping that at least 3 good things come from his untimely death, but I'm worried about a 4th potential option. I want to talk about that coming up on Friday Night Vinyl. Hi, my name is Frank. It's Friday. That means time to kick back, relax, and talk music. Like many of you, I am a huge Van Halen fan. Definitely one of my top 5 favorite bands on the entire catalog, except I must admit for Van Halen 3. Never quite got into that one. And I've been thinking a lot about Eddie's legacy, and now that he's passed on, kind of what's next? What's gonna happen next? And I can think of 3 potential, as I said, 3 potential situations, which are good, which I hope happen. But there's a 4th one, which I know with the way things have been going that could happen. These are all related to vinyl, sort of, and particularly the Van Halen catalog. So let's get into it. All right, let's talk about the good stuff first. As I said, I have a few things that I hope do happen now. Number 1, I'm hoping that the Van Halen catalog gets a proper vinyl reissue. I know certain albums have been reissued, particularly Van Halen 1 in 1984, and I think Van Halen 2 has been reissued, but there's a whole whack of stuff missing, particularly from the Sammy era, and I know there's such a hunger and such a thirst among record collectors and among Van Halen fans to get Balance and For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge reissued on vinyl. And I mean, it's really a mystery to me and probably to many of you as to why that hasn't happened. So, as we know, when celebrity musicians die, you often get a lot of product put out following their death. And so, again, if something good does come out of it, I hope one of those things is seeing some of these albums reissued on vinyl, particularly some of the later day Sammy Hagar stuff. Number 2, as all Van Halen fans know, Eddie was constantly creating music. I'm not sure so much about in his later days. I know he was sick and we really don't know what he was up to, but he spent decades of his life throughout the 80s, 90s, and probably the early 2000s holed up in his home studio of 5150, and he was always making music and always recording stuff. And if you've seen some of the tours of the 5150 studios, he had this massive library of tapes of just all this music that he's created. I'm sure there's some live concerts on there as well, but just unfinished tunes and half-finished tunes and demos with David, I think, and for sure with Sammy. So, I mean, another thing that would be really cool to see is to see some of these rarities and some of these things we've never heard before, some stuff from Eddie's vault released to the world, so we can finally hear some of the stuff. Like in terms of how that would be released, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be vinyl. In terms of demos, I mean, I'm not particularly concerned as to how it's released, whether on the streaming services, CD, vinyl, whatever. But I think myself and many other Van Halen fans would just love to hear some of this unreleased stuff that Eddie had worked on for all these years. So that's the second good thing I hope could come as a result. It just sounds so horrible to say, but I was going to say as a result of his passing, but now that he's passed on, the second good thing that I hope would come out of this. Number 3, the third thing, positive thing that I hope comes from this whole situation is that this may, and this may be wishful thinking, but this may hopefully inspire a whole new generation of guitar players to take up the guitar and to innovate and to invent. Eddie was such an innovator and such an inventor, and he just, I mean, his whole approach to the guitar was thinking outside of the proverbial box. And unfortunately, guitar playing and soloing and noodling and really stellar musicianship in that respect has fallen out of fashion in the last decade or two, which is really too bad, because I remember, I mean, growing up, everyone, myself included, wanted to be Eddie Van Halen. Unfortunately, I mean, that went sideways in a lot of cases where people were just shredding and playing fast for the sake of shredding and playing fast, and they really forgot the fact that, well, Eddie could, in terms of speed, annihilate almost anyone out there. He had such feel to his playing and melody. So, I mean, he would unleash a flurry of notes, but that was just one tool in his toolbox of guitar tricks. So, you know, I do hope this inspires younger people to look at the guitar again and just take it up and just dedicate. We need more people to dedicate themselves to the 6-string electric guitar, because there are no guitar heroes anymore. I mean, Eddie was a guitar hero, but who's left? I mean, obviously Jimmy Page is still alive, but he's not doing much, and there's some other guys, but Eddie was God. So hopefully this inspires other young musicians to take up the axe and show us what they got. So that's all the good stuff, but I do have some fears, which I'll summarize in one point. And again, we've seen this with Prince, we've seen this with Bowie. When these legends pass away, the cash grabs start. I mean, we just saw, there's so many examples, but I talked about this one recently, was the new Bowie live albums coming out, where they're available online exclusively. You got to buy one at a time. You get this. I mean, it's just a nightmare. And I really hope that doesn't happen with Eddie and Van Halen. It'd be awesome, for example, as I said, if they reissued all the albums, but it would really suck if you had to buy them all in one box set. I'd much prefer if they did it the way Kiss, when they reissued their catalog in 2014. They reissued all of them and released them in a couple phases, but you could buy whichever one you wanted. You could pick and choose. You don't have to buy a box set with all these records, some of which you don't want. So again, that's my biggest fear, that the cash grabs start, that they reissue the albums, but you have to buy the whole catalog in a box, that they go into the vault and have these like ridiculously expensive Van Halen albums, which very few of us can afford. So that's my fear. And I know in Eddie's, last weeks and last months, he was really reconnecting with like Dave and Sammy and even Gary Sharon. And I know when he passed away, he had Alex by his side and his son Wolfgang. And I'm certain, or at least I'm certainly hopeful, that Eddie gave his last wishes to his brother and his son in terms of what to do with that vault of unreleased music. And so I know it's in good hands, or you hope, right? You never know when record companies are involved, what exactly could happen. But, hopefully Wolfgang is the curator of that legacy, and hopefully it's treated with respect and we don't get those cash grabs. However, I'm not optimistic, just based on what we've seen when other legacy artists have passed. But I suppose, to steal a phrase, only time will tell. All right, guys, I wanted to get a Van Halen video in, and I hope I treated this topic with the respect it deserves. I do not want to belittle or reduce Eddie Van Halen's passing to, my gosh, this is great, I gotta get some Van Halen records now. Not what this video is about at all. Love Eddie. Rest in peace, Eddie. Again, you're a rock god and probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite guitar player of all time. Anyway, let me know what you thought of this video in the comments below. Let's talk some Van Halen. Again, if you dug it, I would appreciate a quick thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, what the heck are you waiting for? Otherwise, dear 33ers, I hope each and every one of you has a fantastic weekend. Until next time, keep on spinning.